Hello, this is Greg Allison from Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm. Will the U.S. get its ASS kicked by Russia and China? Russia or China? That's what the RAND Corporation tells us. They just came out with a report saying that last week. Get that. The RAND Corporation is like, decades old, huge military strategic think tank. They're the biggest source for strategic thought and processes and planning that we have available to our military and intelligence community in the United States of America. These guys are serious. They're good strategists and analysts, and we have relied on their planning for decades because they're the best in their business. So, it's not to be taken trivial what the RAND Corporation tells us. Of course, there's, half of you will dismiss anything anybody says, but there's other reasons to pay attention to this. And I just covered some of that in a previous video, which I talked about and asked the question, would Putin strike us first? So let's think about this. This is what they say, the RAND Corporation. They say that the U.S. continues to lose against Russia and or China. And that comes from their top military planners. That they warned us last week. They claim, quote, in our games, when we fight Russia and China, blue, which is the U.S., gets its ASS kicked and handed to it. That came from RAND analyst David Ochmanek last Thursday. In RAND's wartime analysis, their war game analysis, that is, the United States forces experienced the most substantial losses in one scenario after another, and still they can't thwart Russia or China from annihilating Western forces. They even claim we usually fail to achieve our objective in preventing aggression by our adversary. So they claim in their board game says they can't even stop the enemy from being aggressive. That's very disturbing. They go further to talk about some of the vulnerabilities, and in general, just we know what some of our vulnerabilities are. The F-35 may be great in the air, but they actually assess that most of them will get taken out on runways, on the ground. Aircraft carriers have been able to project American force very effectively throughout the world for decades, ever since World War II. Actually before then, we're really picking that game up. And unfortunately, they're also big targets in modern warfare, huge targets, and both China and Russia are developing multiple means to be able to take out aircraft carriers and even entire carrier groups. The Tsar Bomba will take out an entire carrier group easily. And there are several other weapons that both countries have worked on with the objective to be able to do just that task. So that's a big target in more ways than one by those that do not view us in the most favorable light. Enough said on that. But anyway, so, and what else is going on in the world today? Other vulnerabilities. We should think about this too. We've had some problems with our Navy in encounters and collisions with craft out in the Pacific Ocean and the South China Sea and things like that, and loss of comms and abilities. A lot of that was just training. In spite of all that we spend and all the training we do, we're not where we want to be. Now, you look at me and say, Greg, how could it possibly be that Russia or China could beat the United States? The United States has the biggest military, and we spend twice the money of Russia and China combined. 3 times the money of China. China spends more than Russia. But then if you look at it and think about this, that's a misnomer. That's like comparing apples to raisins. I mean, something small, dried up. Because China gets a whole lot more for the buck than America does. You spend $1 in China, it's going to go a whole lot farther than it does here. Think about that. Much farther. So in essence, the real funding level in terms of what can be purchased may actually be higher in China than it is here. Now, y'all going to debate that? That's fine. Go ahead. I said it may be. That is going to be disputable and discussable and debatable now to the whatever happens. But the fact of the matter is, it's got to be taken seriously. they have developed basically an archipelago of unsinkable aircraft carriers in the islands that they have artificially built on reefs in the South China Sea, far beyond anything they should have any right to claim, and beyond and into what should be the territorial waters of many other countries in Southeast Asia. That's a very aggressive posture they've taken there. It's essentially one that can cut off all the shipping lanes and provide a huge buffer out in the ocean and projection of forces for China. Why are they doing that? Well, is the Silk Road entirely just for trade? What are they really up to? We need to keep an eye on them and understand that their method of warfare is Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu says, hello, Mr. whoever their enemy is, Mr. So-and-so. And, you know, how are you? Relax, have a seat. Can I get you a drink? Enjoy the shade. And then while you're snoozing, they'd stab you in the back. You know, they believe in asymmetrical warfare. And that's where you get leverage. And some of the key leverages in asymmetrical warfare would be to attack a country's weakness. And as I mentioned in other videos, a key weakness in the United States is our power grid. It's our communications. And even our military communications is a key weakness. And most of our installations get still their power from the civilian grids. So we've got a lot of work to do if we're going to be secure. And I don't know that we have time to do it, because both Russia and China are aiming to, by 2020, be above our level of capabilities. They by themselves to be capable of taking us on. Interesting, they both are picking this time frame, and I'm going to talk about that in a future video. There's something else that concerns me about that. In any event, and you got to think further. We are in a posture of aggression right now in many ways. We are essentially fighting a proxy wars with Russia, and perhaps even China, you might say, at the moment. We are putting forces and military equipment, at least there's a lot of military equipment going into Romania right now. We're talking M1 tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, Chinook aircraft. We're talking Apache aircraft. We're talking Black Hawk. I believe all these, well, maybe not Apache, but the Black Hawks and the Chinooks are going into Romania, from what I'm hearing, in fair numbers. And see, that's just right directly west of Crimea. Check out my previous video when I was talking about Putin, when I said there's no way Putin will ever give up Crimea. That is his key warm water military base. And the people there are Russian. And Crimea was Russian before Russia gave it to Ukraine, when they brought Ukraine into the Soviet Union. That's something you have to understand. There's no way they're going to give that up. They will fight World War III to keep that, because that's their key strategic military asset. They will fight for it. Make no mistake. We're saying, we're not going to cut sanctions back with you until you give up Crimea. That's dumb, because they're not going to give it up. They absolutely will not give it up. And why should they? It was Russian. The people there voted to stay in Russia overwhelmingly, like 99.9%, I believe. It was just, almost unanimous. So there you have that. So when you think about all these things, and you think about Russia and China getting a parity on us at some point, you could see where they might deem it to their advantage to actually strike us first, if they think that we are going to hit them eventually. And some of our analysts, and where you'll find from some of these papers on the RAND Corporation, they were saying that, or at least some people have been saying that a lot of analysts believe that we're very likely to have a World War III type conflict with Russia or China by the mid-20s. Let's hope they're wrong. Let's hope they're dead wrong. It's nuts to be planning those kind of things. We used to have better sense than actually hope. Well, you should plan to be able to fight it if you have to fight it, but you shouldn't be planning to fight it. And it really seems from a lot of the dialogue and discourse that we've had in this country that we're actually planning to fight it. That's nuts. I've been to Russia. I've been to Moscow. I'm going to tell you something. In Moscow, the people are just like they are here. People are people anywhere you go. There are innocent people there. There's innocent people here. Why should we be killing each other because of something the politicians are doing or wanting? The people there are a lot of good people. And you know what? I actually felt at home in Moscow. I felt more at home in Moscow than I did somewhere allied NATO countries that I visited. I mean, I felt at home. I felt like I could blend in. And there's good people in all these countries. Anywhere in the world, at the people level, you're going to find the same thing. People are just trying to meet their basic needs. They have aspirations for the future, and it's the diversion by the news medias and the organizations and the political structures that stir them up, that stir their passions up, them and us, and stir us all up against each other, pit us against each other. But it's really nonsense. It really is. We need to break through all this. All that said, that's not where we're at today. Today, we're facing some imminent dangers, and you do well to prepare for it. So do pay attention to my videos. I do plenty of videos on growing your own food, a lot more to come on prepping. I got a movie on water purification. I've got a video on wild foraging, and more of those kind of videos to come out really soon. And I even show you how to grow food in your house. And I also talk about, you do have a need to store food. But that's not going to be enough, because if you don't grow food, when your stores are gone, you're going to starve. So bear all that in mind. And with that said, you can help my channel if you will do the following. So my Patriot Supply has great deals on prepping and survival type food. If you look at what they've got here, emergency approved long-term supplies. You can get a year's worth of stuff here, essentially for a couple bucks a meal. There's a lot of really good looking meals. This stuff in these carry-all handles will be easy to put in the bug out vehicle, if you bug out in a vehicle. If you bug out with a backpack or on a bicycle, you're going to be carrying some of these pouches. For your pantry, though, I wouldn't carry, this is not what I would use for the pantry. I would go with the number 10 cans. I really trust that stuff for the long-term storage. And you can buy plenty of bulk number 10 cans here. This is the stuff that you can really rely on for lasting 25 years, maybe 30 years, or even longer, perhaps. But you got to buy a lot of it to have that long supply, of course, a whole lot. So you don't really want to buy all of that unless you just got millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you do, knock yourself out. But, I'm telling you, you're going to need to grow your own food, but we may have periods that you can't do that for various and sundry reasons. So yeah, you should store food and grow food. You need to be able to know both skill sets. That said, I'm not going to harp on that much more. Just also be aware you got all kind of other survival items you can buy in here and little things. And you know what? Water purification. So it would help my channel if you buy some of that stuff through the link I provide below, and that will credit to my channel. North Korea doesn't even factor in on the top 15 countries in military spending. I don't know exactly where they rank, but they're somewhere below that. Yet they've got an active army of 945,000 individuals. 945,000 active military personnel. That's huge. In little bitty tiny North Korea, impoverished state North Korea. They're kind of like the Spartans. Everything goes in the military. And the Spartans, they could really kick it. The reserve forces of North Korea are 7,600,000 as of 2016. That's the 2016 date on that. That's huge. That's crazy huge. So you got this little bitty country with like no money. They're building intercontinental ballistic missiles and nukes and all kind of crazy stuff. And so if North Korea can do that with nothing, then what can China do? I'm going back to my point about China and Russia. You also buy more in Russia. Not as well as China, but you do buy more in Russia. And I would figure that if one of them weighed in against us, they're both in on it. So we need to mind our step and try to keep out of this war situation and get us down the road where people can deal more directly with each other. Maybe we can overcome these things. I've got some plans for a whole new set of habitats and communities and ways that we can start working to both survive the worst outcomes and to be able to thrive. And even moreover, I think to take a lot of the tensions out of this world. And I think that's what we've got to do. And We do that with more self-sufficiency, with people going around and not needing a lot of these external resources and things that we so require today. We can live a very prosperous life in a very different profile. I'm going to go into that in the future. But that said, I've got a lot more videos coming on topics such as I've been covering: the prepping, the growing your own food, the worm farming, which is a basic 101 for being able to garden without having to go to the store, which won't exist once it hits the fan, to buy fertilizers and pesticides and all those things that you have to get to garden. Well, guess what? You don't have to have those to garden. You can get most of that stuff from worm castings. And guess what else? I do sell worms. And for your local, I'll sell worm castings and worm tea. But I will be showing videos in the future on how you can make those things yourself. So do subscribe to my channel, bang the bell, and down below is also my site for selling worms. So you consider buying some worms. And I hope you have a nice night. And let's hope that we get through all this and none of this comes to pass, because maybe we're vigilant, we call things out, and we try to get people to have a little sense about their heads. There's no point in us wasting this whole planet over the passions of a few people. So let's hope for peace, but prepare for the very worst. That's what I say. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best.